It's funny. When most people hear product design, I think they immediately picture, like, the visual stuff.
Well, absolutely. Someone hunched over, pushing pixels around in Figma or Sketch. It's a common image.
Exactly. But what we really want to dig into today is that product design is actually, well, way bigger than just the UI.
Mm-hmm. And crucially, it starts much, much earlier than opening any design software.
Way earlier. So that visual part, it's just one piece of a much larger puzzle.
A puzzle is a good way to put it. Or maybe a cycle, because it's definitely not just a straight line from A to B.
Right. Not linear at all. It loops back. And that's kind of our mission for this deep dive, isn't it?
Yeah, to unpack what that product design workflow really looks like in practice.
In, like, actual teams doing the work, not some textbook definition.
Exactly. The real deal, sometimes messy, always evolving.
Okay, so where does it start then, if not with the visuals?
It starts with questions, lots of questions. We call it the discovery phase.
Discovery. Okay,
Yeah.
so less about designing, more about investigating.
Precisely. It's all about inquiry first. You're asking those really fundamental things.
Like, what problem are we actually trying to solve here? Is that one?
That's the big one. What user problem are we tackling? And then right alongside that, who is this user?
Who are we building this for? Okay.
And critically important, what are the business goals? How does this product fit into the bigger picture?
Right. It has to make sense for the business, too. So discovery involves digging into all of that.
It does. And that means, well, several key activities. User research is massive.
Talking to actual users.
Talking, yes, but maybe even more importantly, observing them. Understanding their needs, their pain points, their actual behaviors. Sometimes what people say they want isn't quite what their actions show.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Actions speak louder. Gotcha. What else is in discovery?
Competitor analysis is usually in there, seeing what else is out there, what works, what doesn't, where are the gaps.
Finding opportunities, maybe? Or threats?
Both, yeah. And data analysis, too. If you have existing data, digging into that can give you huge insights into user behavior.
So looking at numbers, trends.
Exactly. And maybe the most crucial part, getting everyone on the same page internally.
Internal alignment.
Yeah.
Making sure the whole team, product, engineering, marketing, everyone understands why you're building this thing.
You got it. Because if you skip or rush this discovery phase, well, you're basically just guessing.
Designing based on assumptions.
Which is pretty risky. A lot of products fail because they were built on shaky, unchecked assumptions. Discovery helps prevent that.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense.
Mm.
So let's say we've done our homework, we've done the research, talked to users, looked at data, we have all this stuff. What happens next?
Right, you can't stay in discovery forever. So the next logical step is to take all those insights and really define the problem clearly and start planning.
Defining and planning. Okay, so this is where we synthesize everything we learned.
Exactly. You boil it down. What is the core problem this product needs to solve? Pinpoint it.
But it's not just the problem, right? You mentioned constraints earlier.
Absolutely. This is where you have to be realistic. What are we working with? Time constraints? A tight deadline, maybe?
Yeah, always time.
Always time. Technological limits. What can we actually build with our current tech and team skills?
And the business model, you mentioned that too.
Definitely. How will this thing actually work as a business? How will it sustain itself? And critically, you need to set success metrics here.
How we'll know if we've actually succeeded. Measurable goals.
Measurable is key. Otherwise, how do you know if the design is effective? Or if it's meeting those business objectives?
Got it. So what activities happen in this phase? Defining and planning.
Well, mapping the user journey is a really common and valuable one.
Okay, what does that involve? Like drawing out the steps a user takes?
Sort of, yeah. It's visualizing their entire experience end to end from when they first feel a need all the way to getting their goal met by your product.
Ah, I see. Helps you see the whole picture.
Yeah.
Find sticky spots.
Exactly. Friction points, opportunities maybe you didn't see before. User personas often get firmed up here too.
Those fictional representations of target users.
Right, based on the research. Helps keep the team focused on who they're designing for. Humanizes the data.
Keeps it user-centric.
And again, team alignment. Making sure everyone really agrees on the problem, the constraints, the goals. Crystal clear.
It feels like this stage is about building a really solid foundation, like architectural blueprints before construction.
That's a perfect analogy. And just like good blueprints, this stage prevents so many problems later.
Like scope creep. where the project just keeps growing and growing.
Exactly. That's a big one. And just general misunderstandings within the team about what you're actually building. This stage nails that down.
Okay, solid foundation laid,
Mhm.
problem defined, plan in place. Now do we get to the more, designy bits?
We're getting closer. Next up is ideation and concepting. This is where the creative juices really start flowing.
Brainstorming time.
Well, yes and no. It's more structured than just throwing ideas at a wall, usually.
Okay, how so? Are there specific methods?
Yeah, several good ones. One popular technique is using "how might we" statements.
How might we? How does that work?
You take the problem you defined and you reframe it as an opportunity. So instead of "checkout is confusing," it becomes "how might we make checkout feel effortless?" or something like that.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
It opens up possibilities rather than just stating the negative.
Exactly. It sparks more creative thinking. Then there's a technique called Crazy Eights.
Crazy eights. Sounds intense.
It is. It's super fast. You basically try to sketch 8 different ideas in 8 minutes.
Wow, okay. So quantity over quality at first.
Totally. The goal is just rapid generation. Get lots of ideas out, even the wild ones. Don't filter yet. It forces you past the obvious stuff.
Stops you getting stuck on one idea too early. Makes sense. Any others?
Storyboarding's another good one. More visual.
Like drawing a comic strip of the user's experience?
Pretty much. You map out the key steps, the interactions, the context. It helps everyone visualize how a potential solution might actually play out for the user.
Find potential issues or maybe moments you could improve.
Yeah, exactly. The main point of this whole ideation phase isn't to find the one perfect idea immediately. It's about exploring widely. Generate a bunch of potential directions.
Create options to choose from later.
You got it. Build that pool of concepts.
Okay, which brings us neatly to part 4, UX and UI design. This feels like the stage most people think of first.
It often is, yeah. This is where things start to get tangible, where you shape the actual experience and look.
But only after all that foundational work we just talked about.
Critically important, yes.
Yeah.
Discovery, definition, ideation come first. Then you dive into UX and UI.
So what are the steps here?
Well, you usually start with information architecture, or IA, organizing everything logically so users can find their way around.
Making sure stuff makes sense and is easy to navigate.
Right. Then you move into wireframes, usually low fidelity first.
The basic skeleton, like boxes and lines showing where things go.
Exactly. Focuses on layout and function, not looks. Like the structural plan for the interface.
Okay, like the walls and rooms of the house analogy again. Then comes the paint and furniture.
Kinda, yeah. After lo-fi wireframes, you move to high-fidelity designs. This is where the visual aesthetic comes in. Colors, fonts, branding, imagery, making it look like the final product.
And making it feel real.
That's where prototyping comes in. Building interactive mock-ups. They're not fully coded, but they let users click through flows and test interactions.
So you can see if the design actually works in practice.
Precisely. And something really important here, especially for consistency and efficiency, is using design systems.
Ah, design systems. Reusable components, guidelines,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Exactly. A shared library of UI components, buttons, forms, menus, plus rules and principles. It keeps everything consistent across the product.
And saves time, presumably. Not reinventing the wheel constantly.
Huge time saver. And it helps with scalability as the product grows. Using established design patterns is part of this 2 common solutions to common UI problems.
Okay, so we've got these beautiful interactive prototypes based on solid research and planning. Now we're ready to ship.
Almost. But first, a really crucial step. Part 5, which is testing, validation, and iteration.
Testing the prototypes?
Yep, those prototypes. They're not finished products. They're really hypotheses, testable ideas about what will work for users.
You put them in front of actual users again.
You absolutely have to. You watch them use it, ask them questions, see where they get stuck, where they get confused, what works well.
Looking for friction points.
Exactly. You're gathering feedback to see if your design or hypotheses hold up. And the key word here is iteration.
Meaning you change things based on the feedback.
Constantly. Good designers don't see the first version as the final version. They embrace the feedback loop. Learn, refine, test again. Learn, refine, test again.
It's a cycle within the bigger cycle.
Very much so. It's about improving based on real user interaction, not just launching and hoping for the best. And it's not just about what users do wrong, but digging into the why.
Understanding their thinking. Okay, so testing, iterating, refining. Let's say we've done that and we feel good about the design now. What's left?
The final leg before it goes live, part 6, handoff and delivery.
Handing it over to the developers to actually build.
That's the core of it, yeah. but it's more involved than just sending over some files.
How so? What needs to happen for a smooth handoff?
Well, clear documentation is key. Annotating the designs, explaining all the interactions, the user flows, making sure nothing is ambiguous for the engineers.
Leaving no room for guesswork.
Ideally, yes. Creating comprehensive specs. And, maybe most importantly, close collaboration with the dev team.
So it's not just throw it over the wall.
Definitely not. Or it shouldn't be. It's a partnership. Designers need to be available to answer questions, clarify things.
Handle edge cases, maybe? Things you didn't initially think of?
For sure. Edge cases always pop up, so it's about working together to ensure the final built product matches the design intent accurately.
Okay. And then it launches.
Then it launches, but the process still isn't really over.
Ah, right? Because it's a cycle.
Exactly. Even after launch, you're watching how people use it, gathering feedback, looking at analytics.
You're learning from the live product.
And that feeds back into the cycle for future updates, improvements, new features. It never truly stops as long as a product is alive. Designers should also ideally have some basic technical understanding to make this handoff smoother, bridge that gap.
Right, understanding limitations or possibilities on the engineering side. So it really is that continuous loop.
Yeah.
Listen, build, validate, improve.
That sums it up perfectly. Listen, build, validate, improve, over and over.
So going back to where we started, for someone listening who maybe mostly does the UI part or thinks of design as UI, what's the big takeaway here?
I think the biggest thing is realizing that UI design, while super important and visible, is just one slice of the pie.
A slice? How big a slice, roughly?
Oh, rough estimate. Maybe like 30%, give or take.
Only 30%.
Oh.
Yeah, the other 70% is all that stuff we talked about before you get to the high-fidelity visuals. Understanding the problem, the user, the business context, the testing, the iteration, that's the bulk of the work, really.
That's a really significant perspective shift. So most of the work happens before you're making things look pretty.
In a truly effective product design process, yes, the foundations are everything.
Okay. And I think next time we're planning to dive deeper specifically into that first part, right? The discovery phase and research methods.
That's the plan. Really unpack how to do that foundational research effectively.
Awesome. So definitely follow along if you want to get into the nitty-gritty of product research. And hey, if you found this overview useful, maybe share it with other designers you know.
Please do. Because really understanding this whole cycle, the inquiry, the creating, the testing, the refining it, just leads to better products.
More user-centered products. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And ultimately, better experiences for the people using them. It really makes you think, doesn't it? How much that holistic view, considering every stage, truly shapes the final outcome.